If you're saving up for a better telescope right now, stop. You're probably about to make the same mistake that I did, and it will cost you more than money. It will cost you years. I started with the wrong telescope, on the wrong mount, in the wrong order. And when I finally fixed it, I didn't buy a better scope. I bought a better mount and kept the same telescope. That one decision changed everything for me. Today I'm going to give you the upgrade order nobody told me when I started. 4 steps, specific reasoning for each one, and one counterintuitive claim about Aperture that might save you a significant amount of money. Let's go through it. Step 1, and this is the most important purchase you will ever make in this hobby, is an equatorial mount. Here's why it matters more than anything else. There are 2 types of mount: alt azimuth, which moves up, down, left, right, and equatorial, which is aligned to the Earth's rotation and tracks the sky accurately as it moves. On an alt azimuth mount, your maximum exposure length before you get star trails is a few seconds only. Yeah, a few seconds. It doesn't matter what camera you have, what telescope you have, or how dark your sky is, you cannot do serious astrophotography on an alt as mount. I know what some of you are thinking. What about a wedge? A wedge converts an alt as mount to equatorial tracking. I nearly went down that route myself. Don't. A wedge adds cost, adds complexity, adds instability, and you're still working around a mount that was never designed for what you're asking it to do. The money you'd spend on a wedge is better spent towards a proper equatorial mount. When I swapped my original scope onto an equatorial mount, the same telescope OTA, different mount, the difference was immediate and dramatic. Longer exposures, cleaner stars, images I simply could not get before. The mount is the foundation everything else sits on. Get this right first. At this stage, don't obsess over which equatorial mount. A solid mid-range option like the AM3 gives you a genuine platform to build on. I chose an Ioptron Gem 26 and it cost me about $1,500 and it was well worth it. This upgrade path exists if you outgrow it, but get on an equatorial mount before you spend another penny on anything else. Step 2 is the camera. And I want to be honest about this because most people start with a DSLR and that's completely fine. I did as well. Most people do. A DSLR gets you imaging and teaches you the fundamentals of photography without a large upfront investment. But the step to a dedicated astronomy camera is one of the biggest single improvements you can make. I do have a full video on this if you want the detailed breakdown. The link is below. The short version, dedicated cameras are cooled, which dramatically reduces noise. They're more sensitive to the wavelengths that nebula emit, and they're designed specifically for long exposure work in a way a DSLR simply isn't. When I made this switch, the improvement was significant enough that I'd call it the second most impactful upgrade in my journey after the mount. At this stage, you have an equatorial mount and a dedicated camera. You can now take long exposures and capture a clean signal. Everything from here builds on that foundation. Step 3, let's talk about filters. And the timing here does depend on your situation. If you're imaging under light polluted skies, and most of us are, a broadband light pollution filter is your next purchase. My own sky is a Bortle 5, and although that may sound, relatively good to some people, it's still quite a lot of light pollution to get over. Filters won't perform miracles, but they do suppress the wavelengths that street lights and urban glow emit, and lets more of the signal you actually want through to the sensor. Once you've outgrown broadband filtering, the next step is narrowband, HA, oxygen 3, sulfur filters that isolate specific emission wavelengths. This is where you unlock targets that are genuinely difficult or impossible from light polluted locations with a standard setup. Filters are not glamorous. Nobody gets excited about filters the way they get excited about a new telescope. but they are a more efficient use of your money at this stage than a better OTA, because they improve what your existing equipment can capture rather than adding a new variable. Step 4, and only step 4, is the telescope itself. I know that feels absolutely wrong. The telescope feels like the most important thing, doesn't it? It's the thing people point at the sky. It's the thing people point at the sky. It's what everyone asks about. But by the time you've worked through the first 3 steps, you will know something you absolutely cannot know at the beginning: what you actually want to image. Here's what I mean. I was imaging with a 650mm focal length telescope, good for many targets, but there were objects I wanted to image, large nebulae, wide star fields that simply didn't fit in the frame, or that were too zoomed up in my frame. The North American Nebula, for example, at 650 millimeters, I'd have needed a mosaic just to capture it. And that's exactly what I did do. I think I had something like 6 panels to cover the whole thing. My solution wasn't to buy a shorter telescope. It was to attach a 135 millimeter camera lens to my dedicated camera, a completely different focal length, a fraction of the cost of a new OTA, and suddenly a whole category of targets opened up. The other benefit was the fact that I already had the lens when I was using a DSLR previously. So when you start with a DSLR, you may be able to recycle some of those lenses back into your more advanced kit later. So that's something to consider. That's the focal length question, and you can only answer it once you've spent time imaging. Do you want to image large, faint nebulae, or do you want shorter focal lengths and fast F ratio, less imaging time, and wider field? Small galaxies and planetary nebulae? Then you'll need much longer focal lengths, more magnification, and finer detail. F ratio does matter as well. A faster F ratio, f5 versus f8, means shorter exposure times to collect the same signal. That's real, practical time saved on every imaging session. And as you go up in F ratio, it does actually make quite a big difference. But here's the point: you cannot make this decision at the beginning. Buy the mount, buy the camera, use them, then choose your optics with actual knowledge of what you want to image. Dedicated camera second. DSLR is fine to start, but make the switch when you can. Filters are third, matched to your sky and the targets you want to image. And then the telescope, chosen with real knowledge behind you and knowledge of what you want to image and why. That's the upgrade order nobody told me, and I'm telling you that now. If you're mapping out your own imaging setup, I put together a free checklist and a list of 50 must image nebulae, both free at astroimagery.com/get cheat sheet. You can also check the link in the description. What was your first telescope, and would you buy it again knowing what you know now? I'd like to ask you that question. Please drop your comments below. I genuinely like to know, and sometimes we get some really interesting conversations going. So do take a moment to do that. And if this video has helped you, please subscribe and like the video. It really does help to support the channel and doesn't take you 2 seconds. The DSLR versus dedicated camera comparison is here if you want the full breakdown on step 2. And if you're weighing up your first serious setup, there's another video here that might help also. Find the links below in the description. And for now, this has been Carl Pereira at Astroimagery. See you in the next one.